What a great crowd here tonight. Woo! It's been a hell of a couple of weeks, hasn't it? So glad we're here together. So let's settle in. My name is Pam Kramer, and I'm the president of ITP International. We are your hosts here for tonight, as well as Greenheart International. This is our main organizer, Emanuel, Kuntzelman, and his team, and we've got our team, and this is a team together. So let's just take a breath for a moment. We're being recorded in so many different ways here tonight, so Emanuel will give you some instructions in a moment. So in our practice of ITP, we cultivate body, mind, heart, and soul. And we have a little practice here for you. And it's GRACE. It's called GRACE, the acronym GRACE. So G for grounding. And feel your feet firmly planted on the earth. The earth welcoming all of us, holding us. And then from the core of the earth, draw the energy up through the body, out through the crown, to the heavens above, connecting the body with the earth and the cosmos at the same time. And draw your attention from the cosmos down through your crown, back through the body to ground. G for ground. R for relax. Take a deep breath. And on the exhalation, bring relaxation into your entire being. Relax. Relax. And A for aware. Become aware of the temperature in the room, all of your senses being here together, aware of awareness itself. And C for center, focusing your attention, the center of the body mass. The Japanese word for it is hara. It's about 2 fingers below the belly button in the center of the body. C for center. And you can ask yourself a question. Am I willing to tap into and bring forth my greatest good in the world? C for center. And E for energize. Feeling the energy all around you, within you. Swirling through this room and out into the universe and back here. E for energize. So grounded, relaxed, aware, centered, and energized. And we'll just take a couple minutes to sit together. Thank you, everyone. Just a couple of notes about Falkirk Mansion. How many people have been to Falkirk Mansion before? So if it's your first time, it's a glorious place. It's a place our San Rafael ITP group practices here, and we have a number of salons here as well. So welcome to Falkirk Cultural Center. And there are a couple of bathrooms. One is just down the hallway there to the left, and the other is if you go through the dining room, there's a hallway and there's a bathroom there. And we'll just be moving through the evening until around 9 o'clock, so at any point in time, if you want to get up and get a glass of wine or something, feel free to do so. And we're so glad you're all here tonight to share this special time together. So I want to introduce Emanuel Kuntzelman, founder of Greenheart International. He's a social activist, author, speaker, and he's on our ITP International board. Plus, I call him my brother. So, Emanuel Kuntzelman, I'll turn it over to you. Blessings and thank you.
Thank you, Sister Pam. Welcome, everyone. We're going to use a microphone tonight because we are live streaming this, so we want to have proper audio pickup. So, welcome to our evening on New Paradigm Populism. Thank you for coming. Thank you, ITP, for your usual wonderful job of organizing this event. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and share this very special moment together. Before we get going, I'd like to introduce our very prestigious panel here this evening. To begin with, in the middle here, we have one of my favorite beings on planet Earth. We are so honored and graced to have Lynne Twist with us here tonight. Lynne has done decades of good work in the world with the Hunger Project, becoming one of the premier fundraisers and organizers the world over. Her book, Soul of Money, has set the, shall I say, gold standard on fundraising and how to deal with money beyond concepts of gold and materiality and finding the real soul of that. She's the co-founder of the Pachamama Alliance, working to preserve our planet with the indigenous tribes in the rainforest and so many other things. And Lynne, I know you have to be in New York tomorrow, so I'm really, really very pleased that you could make it here with us tonight.
Yay.
Thank you very much. We have Michael Murphy, the founder of ITP itself, along with George Leonard, co-founder of Esalen Institute, world-renowned author, novelist, human potential creator, really an icon of over the last 50 years of everything we're talking about in the new paradigm. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. And here at my left immediately is Brandon Peele. He is the author of the forthcoming book, Planet on Purpose. He is a purpose-driven, certified trainer of purpose projects. He's the founder of the Planet Purpose Leadership Academy, has helped more than 2,000 people from 50 countries around the world find their purpose, and worked with many large-scale organizations from Google to Johnson & Johnson. One of the most purposeful men on the planet. Brandon, thank you for joining us tonight. You know, we originally entitled this program New Paradigm Populism, Creating a Path Towards a Spiritual Civilization. That title was set many months ago, and didn't quite anticipate the election outcome here that we've experienced recently, so I think that puts a little Lynne Twist on our evening here tonight. Certainly a change of things. So perhaps, you know, I was thinking, yeah, let's go one up from what we've got and create a truly deeply spiritual civilization. But maybe we'll just start off and try and check in on a little sanity before we aspire to too much higher. But before we get started, just a couple brief words. Maybe we want to define new paradigm populism. So populism, I think, as we all know, is generally a political movement, not necessarily historically always on the right. There have been leftist populist movements throughout history as well. In the last century, they seem to have sprung more from the right side of the political spectrum than the left, but usually arising up from a common grievance, people feeling that they're not well represented, that they're governed by an elite that is not aware of their issues, and it's a kind of popular revolt movement type of thing. So that is sort of our definition of populism. New paradigm populism, one thing, of course, there's my great affinity for alliteration. But beyond that, new paradigm. In this sense, we're talking about really the latest, greatest scientific discoveries that have really taken place over the last 50, even to 100 years. Quantum theory, the interconnectedness of all things, consciousness as primary, a universe with a purpose, with an evolutionary process driving it. Certainly in new paradigm thought, those are the standards and the principles that I think we all generally accept, if not the general public quite yet. New paradigm also goes over into business, conscious business, into social entrepreneurship in that regard, and every other sector of society, from education to multiculturalism, globalization, all the rest. The new paradigm of inclusiveness, of higher values, and really a spiritual framework of consciousness behind everything we do. And the feeling here is new paradigm thought processes are not reaching the mainstream. They're not becoming popular, and it's not a populist movement, mainly, I think, in part anyway, because people of the new paradigm are perhaps too soft-spoken, too heart-centered, too polite, too loving and respectful, to stand up and speak out like some others whose names will go unmentioned have done. But I think there are a lot more reasons than that. This is very new. The new paradigm is brand new in many ways. But that's the theme. And the idea is we have this deep understanding of the nature of the universe, the meaning of existence, how we can get along together and make the world a safe, inclusive place for all of us, and yet it's not quite happening. So how can we make this new paradigm, populism, with a hopeful word on that, more of a reality? So Lynne, ladies first, I'd like to ask you some thoughts to share on, you've done amazing work with the Pachamama Alliance, and you talked about sustainability and spiritual fulfillment and moved thousands the world over. So you want to lead us off and you share some thoughts on the subject?
Let me see. Wow. Well, first of all, I'm still in the shock and stunned and what is actually grief and oh my God and what do we do now and I want to go home and where's my mom? I'm still a little bit there. So I can't say it forever, but I do kind of like that response for just a moment. Because it was really, for me, totally, I got totally, bonked upside the head. I so did not see this coming, and I thought Hillary was actually going to win by, I mean, a lot. So I was really shocked, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with it. So I will just say, I know you're not asking only about the election, but I just got to say that I'm still kind of caught in the disbelief, and I'm responsible for all kinds of people, and they wanted me to say something intelligent and make it all okay and all of that, and I'm not quite there. So I'm really grateful to be here tonight to hear what you have to say, actually. About this, 'cause I'm sure it's going to be really good. So that's the first thing. I just have to cop to being, totally baffled. But secondly, I would say that the one of the things that I realized is that the election was, and the times we're living in are so loud. They're so loud. I mean, even before the election, things are loud. And people listen only long enough to get ready for their reply. I'm not too into TV, so I don't watch it too much, but if you watch those guys and gals on TV, they're just waiting for that person to be done so they can reply. And I think we've all kind of gotten in that habit so that we don't listen to understand. It's almost fashionable and kind of cool to listen only to get ready for your reply. And I think one of the things we need to do regarding what has occurred in the last week is really listen to this, listen to it, deeply listen to it, listen to the voices that are unacknowledged, unheard, not taken seriously. And then this other thing that I realized is this comes from a little story on NPR. So this is all completely disjointed. It's going to all be helpful, but he told me to get started, so this will get us started. I heard this wonderful guy, I can't remember who it was, say that we thought that the internet and the digital age would give us access to all kinds of points of view, all kinds of people, all kinds of languages, all kinds of cultures. It's like everybody's, living in this huge, giant internet world where you can, get information from any corner of the earth, and you can get access to anything. But actually, because of algorithms, once you begin communicating, what comes back to you, because of the algorithm is on the internet, the people who are communicating can figure out how to tell you exactly your own point of view over and 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 over again. You order a book on Amazon, just one book, and then forever after they have figured out what kind of books you want to read. If you think about that, it's really a wonderful service, but I think it's narrowed our field of play. I think we're living in an echo chamber of our own point of view. And I really got that out of this last week, that I have almost no access to people who don't think the way I do. And I thought that I did, because you can go online and you can access all these articles, but as soon as you do, there's this whole machinery that then feeds you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally.
So I think we've actually started narrowing our capacity to expand our thinking rather than expand it with the very tool that I thought was there going to expand us. So that's another kind of random thought here. And then I'll also say that these are all disjointed. So I know this is not exactly what we wanted, but
That's fine. We got Michael and Brandon here to
So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so then the other thing is, the other thing, I realize how strong our country is. That we will get through this. I mean, I watched Warren Buffett talk about it. I don't know if anybody saw him talk about it. He said, oh, we'll be fine. He says, I was totally into Hillary, but we'll be fine. As long as there's not a nuclear war, that's the one thing that he's worried about. But he said, we're strong, we're resilient, we're the deepest, most powerful culture and country in the world. We'll be fine. And it was so nice to hear him say that. It made me feel so much better. And I think, actually, I do think we will be fine. But I think there's a deep power in what's going on now that people like us that are in this room have the opportunity to access. A really deep power. You know, there's this thing called the long conversation, the continuum of history. This is just a very powerful but very small blip in history. And when I look at the whole world, and you know, we're involved in 82 countries, Pachamama Alliance, and very involved in the Marrakesh meetings that are taking place right now. The election in the United States is so small compared to what's actually going on in the whole world with climate change, with transformation, with evolution, with the great, deep, and profound awakening that I think is taking place on this planet. So it's hard to keep it in perspective given the onslaught of the media, but actually if we look, we take the long view, we'll get through this, and it will be a fascinating and very profoundly useful deep dive into something that we haven't been paying attention to. So, those are some thoughts.
Thank you. Michael, you have some thoughts about how we're going to get through as Lynn has launched this thing?
Lynn, that's so beautiful. I'm tempted to say it's just footnotes from now on. That was a beautiful way to frame this. And it's good to get it defined, Emanuel. You know, what we're talking about tonight, I wasn't quite sure. But now, now, this has helped a lot.
Okay, good.
And Lynn is a lot of poetry in there and a real beautiful framing of the situation. Yes, new paradigm, populism. You made that up.
I did.
Yeah.
I like alliteration. I couldn't write it.
Well, I've never heard it before. So, so this is for me, rethinking that as I sit here right now, what this implies. Because, you know, I've been, 55 years of Esalen, and 67 or 68 years immersed in this kind of thing, and I've seen a lot of populisms come and go. You know, not only the left and the right, but within, let's say, the general Esalen Institute orbit, several of these movements. We've seen the rising and falling of a lot of powerful viewpoints that turn out to be inadequate. I mean, most of you know these things. This is a very aspiration. I'm thinking out loud here. I mean, this is an aspiring term. That there is such a thing as a new age, a new paradigm, populism. Because I'm thinking, when these talks get going, a lot of faces of my pals flash up in front of me, and they're all going to be looking at this in a different, well, which populism, because they compete. So if we compete within our own extended family, obviously America has got a lot of this competition going on right now. So I think there are two things working in me right now, trying to sort this out. First is to come to terms with what's really going on. And the other is, what can we actually do to help out now? Because when you thought this up, I mean, you didn't know the election was going to turn out this way. So it's given a new urgency.
It has.
So, okay, so there's some questions we could ask everybody here. The trouble is that my life has got several channels going at once, in activity. And there are those who discern a powerful increase of hate and bullying that's happened this week. So I came here tonight thinking I'd just like to ask everybody here, what do you think? Have you seen this week? More actual bullying and hate in your lives?
No.
No. All right. Does anybody?
More fear.
What?
More fear.
No, I'm talking about hateful, bullying, get out of here, in your face stuff that you read about. Is anybody talking to you?
I've seen it on social media and Facebook.
Yes, okay. Okay, you have seen it. Well, all right, this is interesting. I mean, because there's two viewpoints. We've been down at, we were at Esalen in the middle of a conference on election night, and oh my God, what a night that was. There were several degrees of altered consciousness. And when you're in a crowd like that, you really get an incredible viewpoint. You get 8 or 10 viewpoints at once, and you realize about human greatness. We can see things in all these different ways. Particularly at Esalen, at the next election, you might want to be down there, whenever it is, 20 years from now. But so coming in, some of the incoming, Hillary used to say, well, the incoming data right now is of absolute contradictions going on. Certain people were reporting that the people are more loving, they're embracing each other, they're on alert, and then those in certain neighborhoods, really there's a permission given to really bring out all your nasty side. So that's in the works. I'm wondering now, having lived through the 60s, because Esalen started before the 60s started. I mean, the 60s started pretty 64, 65, but we were going, and then to watch the explosion. So there's a rumble in the hood that resembles the 60s in a way. For example, we have friends that are arming up right now. Not with guns, although there are those too, but with activists. How many of you are involved in some group that's quietly mobilizing right now? Well, okay, a third. Okay, I mean, this is quiet, getting ready to do serious business. And the question is it going to be another 60s or not? I doubt it. But it could be something new. And it's going to be there are going to be a lot of smart, disciplined efforts to do this or that, and they're going to come, I predict, from left and right, and from all sorts of places. So, what do we do about it? So that is one question for tonight. Do we want to talk about practical stuff we do, or do we want to think about how we got here and where this might go? See what I'm saying? What level of conversation, Emanuel, is a question I've got.
Well, I think we do want to get to some practical solutions tonight, definitely so. So we want to quickly take this to the next level of how does this populism manifest itself? How does it unite right and left? How does it speak for the truth, beauty, and goodness in the human heart that Lynne alluded to? And how do we put that into action? Yeah.
Okay, this our populism.
Yes.
Okay.
So good. Well, we're on the path there. Brandon, you want to pick up on the thread there and see if maybe we can find some purpose in this process.
All right. First of all, it's wonderful to be here. Truly an honor to share space with both of you. Your books have made a big difference in my life. Thinking about a new paradigm, populism. Historically, we've got some baggage to deal with even that word. There's been a lot of stuff coming out lately about just, should we even have populism? Just have this emotional reaction to anything, to injustice, and because when has it worked? What has it worked really well when people got like, I'm mad, and like made a great outcome? And normally there's like some figurehead who like incites a bunch of people to enact violence on a bunch of other people. Now, I love to use the word because we should take it back. Because I think especially with all the e-presence in terms of the context, that's now true. That we literally are all interconnected now. And we've got this growing integral kind of full stack awareness of where people are at and how they're experiencing and responding to this moment in our history. So, from traditional to modern, postmodern, folks are holding this moment differently. And it's all significant. There's a lot of significance. Very few people are like, very real like Buffett are just like, yeah, it'll be fine. And everyone's like, pay attention. So something big's about to happen and we need to be ready. So, when I think about what could be that uniting thing that brings us all together as a species or as a country, it's got to have values metabolism. It's got to move up and down the spiral really quickly. I personally believe it needs to be centered in some kind of modernist narrative that brings in the traditionals and the postmoderns together. But I'm open to whatever it looks like, but it's got to move. It's got to be used in terms of Jesus as well as in terms of justice, in terms of it's got to be inclusive, but it has to come with a scientific vernacular too, so that this can move through our institutions quickly. There's no reason that whatever this thing is needs to be limited to a political movement. Why not also have it be an educational or cultural component that shows up in our schools and in our churches and whatnot? I'm a very biased person here. I believe that our species is now asking this question, and that we've spent the last 30 years developing the research and methodology and the transformation work and the global awareness, that now we have this kind of beautiful solution that's been kind of like handed to us through a lot of hard work of purpose discovery, like knowing who we are individually, and also the level of couple, family, community, company, country, species, planet, cosmic birth story, whatever you want to call it. We have this new technology that, I'm sure a lot of folks in here have wrestled with the purpose question and done your quests and worked with guides and all that kind of stuff. But now we've got the great tools to accelerate it. We've got the internet, we've got schools, we've got increasingly large celebrities like Justin Bieber putting out an album on purpose. It's crazy, right? He's a child, but he's like, hey, we gotta do this. And so, I also want to say that this is happening. There already is a new paradigm, populism emerging. We're just kind of now looking for where are the threads? What are we going to call it? How are we going to weave it together? And all the perspectives are needed. Like I said, I firmly believe that the common core here is how do we create an empowering narrative that allows everybody to come alive? That they see this as an opportunity for their own fullness and self-expression. That we'll get into maybe why some other populist movements or other movements have failed, but how can this be something where everybody gets a win? How can this be something that we achieve our individual and collective purpose simultaneously? So that's why I'm really excited about this evening.
Very good, thank you. Well, let's delve into how this movement, whether it's a populist movement or some other term is more appropriate, but how this movement actually can be different. And I think one of the ideas I'd like to throw out there is that, most movements are based on grievances, or they're based on single issues, and they're based on this kind of emotional anger rising within. This movement, I think, is different because it's not a contagion, social action imitation sort of thing. It's a rising norm within human decency of the right way to be and do things. And I think we've matured enough as a species, perhaps, to make that step now. I don't know that we need to eliminate the populist thing. I think there needs to be some emotional drive, but I really do think it's based on higher values and could therefore have some staying power. And I welcome your thoughts on, as you mentioned, Michael, who is the reference point for this movement? How do we unify left and right and appeal to a broad base of humanity? So I open this up to all of you.
Well, Brenda, I love what you said. Hey, you called us all here to gather around this basic idea. I mean, it's that we indeed can find a master narrative, a big story, the story of all stories. Okay, and that's the reason I started Esalen with Dick Price. It was to give birth to that story. So I'm often asked, what are your successes and failures? And I say our greatest success has been first to broker a kind of conversation that can't be had without anybody capturing the flag. That you can go back and forth around the deepest issues and not end up with a fist fight. And that you can learn from them, learn to listen. So that was something I think we achieved. We set an example. There are a lot of centers like this. You can't quantify this stuff. And the other good thing we did was help an explosion of transformative practices. I mean, the somatics movement really, it was the main base. I mean, Ida Rolf led the first, trained her first people, blah, blah, blah. The same with a lot of these, what once were medical procedures, becoming just education about our interpersonal relationships and so forth, what Aldous Huxley called the nonverbal humanities. And so say Gestalt therapy, which started out in the medical world, and it's now in with a much broader mandate. So this is where we contributed. But when people ask me, what have you failed at? I say our greatest failure was in the very thing I was telling myself and my friends we were out to do, which is to give birth to this new worldview. Mm-hmm. It's no nearer now in terms of general acceptance than it was then, 55 years ago. And I gave an example at a symposium I think this story could be relevant. At an open center in New York that had been inspired by Esalen. So, Walter Beebe, the founder, who has a tremendous resemblance to Charlie Rose. I kept thinking he was interviewing me, and we're sitting out there. It was quite an audience that was there. Opinion makers and big shots of various kinds. So when he asked that question, I said it was a failure in that term, and I gave him an example that in the first years of Esalen, there were 8 different leaders that I could tell you about who had been on the cover of Time magazine. Now Time magazine ain't what it used to be. It used to be like the village newspaper almost, and the man of the week. These are 8 figures who were celebrated, who commanded this general narrative. Paul Tillich, I don't know if any of you remember, but in the Protestant Christian world, he was the avatar of a very progressive, mystical, evolutionary vision. Okay, and etc. So, and I said but I said, but now there's no one that I can think of who was on this narrative. Now, they're wonderful creatures, avatars, I would say the Dalai Lama, but who is not really commanding the narrative in the way these guys were. But who could you name? So I said that. So anyway, for whatever reasons, that the seminar I had got everybody buzzed up, and so a week passed, So they call up, the senator calls me up and says, wow, I guess the New York Times was there because they have a 2-page spread in the Sunday Times Sunday Review that described the failure of narrative that commands our hearts. This is in the New York Times, and of the 8 people I named, 4 of the photographs were across the top. So they said, wow, you really turned on that reporter. I said, no, he wasn't in the audience. The guy that wrote that is a well-known cultural historian from Harvard. You're just saying the same thing I'm saying. So I took that as an incredible moment for me of our failure. Great successes, and the problem is that our successes can obscure your failures. So I just have to say, if we're going to deal with it, we better be aware of this. I mean, we better be aware of it. So the first thing then is how to climb that hill again. So this is what a gang of us at Esalen are trying to do. We're going to climb that rugged hill. You know, Rumi said, you know, after every death, there is another, and we knock again at the old scarred door. After every death, there is another. We knock again. You keep going. So, I could, Emanuel, I don't want to take too much time here, but there are 8 or 10, well, 4 or 5 things I could describe that we're doing to try again. And this could be a subject. What can we do practically now to recapture this idea of a general narrative that was more in fashion coming out of the 50s and into the 60s than it is today? Now, just one more thing. What are some of our enemies? We have some new enemies. Part of it is this thing. I mean, this has produced great things, and it's produced incredible interruptions, starting with dinner. How many times have you been out to dinner with the people you love, and they, of course, wouldn't have it on the ringer, they have the buzzer on. So if you watch the buzzer treatment here, you know, just casually, that's it. It depends how successful they are or how dynamic. The real dynamos, 2 seconds they can do that. And they just, so this has now become a problem. So just as one move that can be made, this is a small move, but 3 weekends ago, we had a conference at Esalen on the attention economy. And this is, the Atlantic Monthly has an article, you can read the Atlantic Monthly this month, about Tristan Harris. He's being called the conscience of Silicon Valley. But Larry Page was there, you know, one of the founders of Google, and the founder of Tinder, you know, Tinder is the new dating thing that's assumed, and the founder of that, and the guy head of ads for Facebook, and people from Apple. And so we had quite a team of dynamos facing up to how they are deliberately trying to capture your attention. This is a time for at least addressing the question. And the 2 young men who organized it both have sold an algorithm to Google. So you sell an algorithm, you get your 10 million, let's say, and then you get subsumed into Google. And then you learn how to seduce everybody. Because both your algorithms are how to reinforce you for clicking on this, because you make money by the click. So if you want your market shares to go up, you've got to keep that going. So this is a incredible armies of some of the smartest people in the world. These are the biggest armies of engineers that, by orders of magnitude, centered in Silicon Valley, out to seduce us into behaving like this. My most recent annoyance is my last remark on this. Somehow, they've got Siri on Apple, a woman who says the naughtiest things to me. And I find that early in the morning, suddenly this voice comes on saying something seductive and beguiling. So what have I done to deserve this? I wanna know. I mean, I honestly, God, I don't do pornography, okay? So they haven't got me on pornography, but they've got me on something. They figured out that I could be had by this, and so what does she want? So I said, what do you want today? So the worst thing was, I was giving a talk like this, and it came out loudly, it was a nasty remark. Say, I won't say what she said.
Oh, come on!
Honest to God, I swear to God, this is true. All right, they're after you. They're after you. If you use this, they'll get you. So anyway, that's one enemy. We got a lot of other enemies. But anyway, there are practical things we can do. And so this is just to help open this
Yeah,
conversation.
well, thank you. You know, I think that theme of writing this new narrative and the fact that we have evidently failed to author this new story is a very poignant factor in all this. Lynn, would you like to pick up on the narrative theme or any other?
Well, at Pachamama Alliance, the narrative that really has inspired us is the universe story, Thomas Berry and Brian Swin.
Yeah, well, that's on the right track.
And that story, to me, generates a powerful, powerful future and a powerful and deeply spiritual place from which to come. And, you know, it's another